Well, hello, Amy. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I can't complain because people stopped listening anyway. Uh, so we didn't have anybody last week, right? We didn't have anybody last week. They decided not to come or something. Who knows? But we've had a lot of people. Got a lot of people signed up going forward. I just checked the thing, and I it was weird because I ended up looking in the. I don't have access to the email on a bunch of my machines because for some reason, somebody in our past it goes to that phone as
Um,
authorization. So they're told me what to do. So I'll get that fixed. But there's a bunch of people who were asking to be on. So they're going to be coming on. All right. All right. Today's guest, we've known for a while, Rob Anspach. I always think of Star Trek when I say that name. And, he's not a vet, but he does a lot of stuff for vets. He helped. We'll let him tell his story, but he's done a lot for vets. And let's bring him in and get to know him a little bit. Okay. All right, Ed, we'll do that. Thanks for being there.
sounds good.
I'll just sit here and you can make words for me. How you doing, Rob? Thanks for coming to the show.
I'm doing great, and I can't believe you didn't have a guest last week.
Yeah, it's unusual for that, you know.
And then you scrape the bottom of the barrel and get me. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just
Well, the problem is people don't realize we record the show live, right? And so sometimes they're just like, oh, I can't make it. No, you understand. We record it live. People know you're coming on. But and then what we do 1 to 2 weeks later, depending on where we are in the schedule, then you're popped up to the podcast. So it just depends, and it's like we just like doing them live, and then that way people can see them, and then people who don't watch the lives they can listen to the podcast.
hmm you
Yeah,
know. And as I was saying off air, I did want to serve. I wanted to be in the Navy back in 1987. I signed up. I was going to go into the nuclear program, and I passed all my regs and tests and everything. And then they said that but I couldn't detect those numbers out of that colored dot test, so I failed the vision test.
So, why did you choose the Navy, though?
I chose the Navy because I was going to go in with my buddy, and my uncle was in the Navy, and actually a couple uncles were in the Navy. So I wanted to be on a cruise. I mean, on a carrier. Forget that sub. Now I know it's nuclear on a sub, but very claustrophobic.
yeah.
So
Plus, you
I,
hit your head potentially.
yeah, so I thought, hey, the carrier life, that would be awesome. I get to go all the different types of ports and see all kinds of things, and no, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But
It's
the following year, then I got married, started having kids, and went back to school and didn't like it. Became an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 28 years, and I give back to a lot of vet programs. One of the local ones is a vet salute company, and we built their website, and they go out and do the 21 gun salute for fallen soldiers, and that always impressed me because here they're retired military going out to give salute to other fallen soldiers, and they don't get paid. It's all volunteer, and to me, it's kind of a dying field because nobody wants to do it anymore. So the guys that are doing it now are in their 70s and 80s, and so you got old timers with their rifles, and they can barely even hold them, but every day they're showing up and they're saluting the fallen soldiers.
well,
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I have buddies out here who are part of Honor Guard, and it's all volunteer.
hmm
But I also, so your son serves in the Army, correct?
My son serves in the Army. He's a Cab Scout. He's Fort Bliss at the moment, moving to Fort Benning or whatever the name is now. And he'll be in his, I think, ninth or 10th year. And he loves it. I think he'll be a lifer, and he just really enjoys what he does.
what does he do?
Well, at
Is it
whatever,
secret?
yeah, it's probably a secret. I know at one time he was the destroyer of tanks, although that was his nickname because he'd get into them and destroy the transmissions for some odd reason. I guess he can't drive.
So he learned to drive from you.
No, from his mother.
So do you know why he chose the Army, not the Navy?
He he was going to go into the Marines. He was going to go in the Marines,
Which
and
is Navy. But let me
wow,
move on.
yeah. But around here, he was gung ho about going in the Marines. He really was. But he would show up for their training, and but the leaders that were putting it on around here were cursing so much, showed so much disrespect for people that he just kind of lost interest in the Marines, and he looked around and he said, okay, well, Army's going to actually pay me more. So he went that way.
Yeah. And that's why my son joined the Army. It wasn't because he was getting cussed at by me, but it was just because they guaranteed his job. And they make rank so much faster than Navy does, and it's amazing. But back to the Marine and the way they're talking to him, they want people to quit that won't take care of that. That's part of their beginning.
And
and there's nothing. That's just they want a certain person. That's what they want.
And now my son is very respectful. And now that he has a little girl and he's married, his whole prime objective now is when he's off duty, he spends time with his daughter, and so he become, he's kind of learned how to turn it off, turn it back on. When he's out in the field, it's Mr. Army Dad, and when he's with his daughter, it's daughter time. So yeah, it's I respect that out of him. But and one of my clients, Jocelyn Stewart, who's been on the show before, she defends soldiers against accusations, and I don't ever want to see my son in that position, where he needs a lawyer to get out of it. I always want him to be respectful.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not you anyway. Right. It's that person who, because unfortunately in the military you're guilty until proven innocent, which kind of the world is today. Yeah, I mean, and that's the sad part, because you are guilty. You got to prove you're innocent. Yeah. But at least since you brought her up, she wrote a book, right? And
she has 3 books out, and she's coming out with a 4th one. This one is going to be more dialed into stories that she shared on her TikTok channel, and her TikTok channel is blowing up. I mean, I think she's got 80,000 followers now, and she only started it back in October of last year.
Well, it's the content of what she's probably putting out there that's important. That there's not another person really doing it, right. And that's what's good about it. But did you help her with the books? That was what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I did.
I wasn't trying to promote her. I was trying to talk about you, not her. But no, I knew they could tie them together. Yeah.
Every year we put out a new book for her. Or she writes the content, we produce it, we format it, get it out there, and put it on Amazon and on Kindle. And the first 3 were Shaping the Battlefield. It was a series. Then this next one's going to be an independent book, and it's really good.
Unless you got a question, I want to go down this rabbit hole.
Go for it.
About writing books. Yeah. Well, she's just sitting there, so I want to be respectful for her. I can barely see her; it's so blurry. I think I got to put my glasses on. Oh, that's your background's blurry. Sorry. Anyway, so writing books, right? There's a lot of people who want to write a book, and there's a lot of ways to do it. And we know that you can go the traditional publishing route if you're somebody really amazing or special. But if you really want to get your book out, it's better to go self-publishing. Correct?
Well, yeah, that's how I went. 10 years ago, I came out with a book. It was basically the easiest social media book you'll ever read. And it was I wrote it because of my frustration dealing with social media at that time. As we know, Facebook at the time was in its infancy. Now it's just a giant pain in the ass social network that we can't say anything on. But back then, people they didn't know how to use it. So I came out with this book. But when I came out with Share, which was the title of the book, everybody wanted these thick, cumbersome, not so easy to digest manuals. And I thought, no, I just want to keep it simple. And so I ended up starting my own publishing company. I did it because of the frustration of dealing with other publishers. When that book sold almost 2,000 copies right away, I knew I was onto something. And the following year, I put out a book on search engine optimization with a partner from Winnipeg. And we had a concept. We wrote the book. We had it, got it on Amazon, and within just a few short days, it went #1 in 4 countries. And it was after that, everybody was like, "Hey, Rob, help me with my book. Help me with this book." So by the end of this year, we'll have produced 40 books in 10 years.
Very cool.
Was that your goal?
No. 10 years ago, my goal was just to get this book out. But each book becomes easier and easier and easier to produce because I have the system in my head. I know how it's going to turn out. But there's a lot of people that still go conventional book publishing. And there are pros and cons. A traditional book publisher is going to want money up front. You're going to have to invest. You're going to have skin in the game. And unless you're a big name that has a huge following, you may not see an advance. With Amazon, print on demand, it's easier for people to tell their story, to get their books out you may not have the huge audience. You might not be able to get into Barnes and Noble and some of the physical bookstores or even the airport store, but you're going to be able to get a smaller audience right away to build up your that audience or that trust that you need them to have in you. And then you can always make more books, or you can transition those existing books into a publisher once you can show the numbers. But there's a lot of stories that soldiers have, and I think that if more people knew about what went on, they'd have more trust in the system. But with anything, if the military knows that you're writing a book, they want to come down and you can't say that. Nope, can't say that. So I think that even when I write a book, I have to be careful what can be said, who do I piss off, purposely. And so even in my Rob versus books, which are my sarcastic take on life, I try not to use full names. Just
you said you try not to.
I try not to. Some people I do, but by and large, I try not to keep people's full names out. If I'm giving them praise, I'll put their last name in. If I'm destroying them, then I put them. I don't want to run the risk of getting sued because people are so happy.
Yeah, take it down. Get rid of your book.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're gonna piss off somebody. That's just how life is. No one's. I mean, I don't care what it is. And when I'm on radio, my job is to get a reaction out of somebody when I'm on the live side, because I need them to call in, whether they're going to be happy or mad or sad or whatever it is, to get them to call in. It's the same thing that the collection people do.
Right. Well, my one book, Rob versus the Entitled, Amazon took down for about 3 months, and I had to file a petition. I had to, beg and plead to get them to put the book back up. They thought the title was triggering, and I'm like, it's a sarcastic book. What do you want? So they finally put it back up.
Well, I like the Entitled because that doesn't necessarily mean any one demographic. Like anybody can be entitled, right? And therefore, that should even the playing field. It's a personality type. It's not a gender or an age or anything else.
Yeah. I've had a lot of soldiers, come to me and they say, "Hey, Rob, what can we do to write our book?" And I want to tell them, "Hey, look, segment it. come up with the stories that you already know. And they'll say, well, I can't tell those stories. I'm a Navy SEAL. I can't share those stories, or I can't do this. You got to be able to tell something.
Well, I think also I think stories should be told, but not everyone's a writer.
Right.
And I think,
I'm not.
I think that's hard because then, to have a reputable company write your book for you, which is your story, it is super expensive.
Yeah, it can be, yes.
Or it can be.
And I'm gonna reveal a secret that I want every soldier to take note, or anybody that's listening.
What about the Navy people, the Marines?
Service member. He's saying every
because you're saying soldier. Soldier is Army.
You know what I mean.
I'm just letting you know so that everybody else out there will know what you mean. Service member will work.
Yeah.
Vet. Service member. Vet. Because if you say soldiers get up, only Army get up. I have a son who's in the Army. So.
And sometimes the Air Force get up because they get just confused.
Well, they're like, I've been in this chair forever. Airman, oh, yeah, Chair Force. That's right. Get up. All right, you were saying?
Service members. Yes. So if you have stories that you want to share, get on these podcasts or videos, share your story. Or have someone interview you and then have it transcribed. Yeah. That transcription becomes your voice, becomes your story, becomes your book. And now when someone's picking up that book, it's in your voice. It has your nuances in it. It has your personality in it. So when they're reading that book, they know that you wrote it. Sometimes when you pay a ghostwriter to write stuff, they take your personality out of that book. And people are like, well, you didn't write this.
It's not your voice.
Not your voice.
Yeah. But then sometimes they get it really right. So.
Well, they do. But there are some books out there that were supposedly written by Navy SEALs.
Oh, I'm just talking in general. I wasn't talking Navy SEALs. Yeah.
But they weren't written by the actual person. They were written by a ghostwriter who has kind of sanitized their stories, and so now I would prefer a book that was actually voiced by the actual service member.
And it doesn't. I mean, that could be that if that's the book you want to write, it could be something totally different that you want to write. Yeah, I mean, and it's just a matter of. I just want people to know there's so many routes to go these days because how Amazon, that behemoth have done what they did, good or bad, they have great sides to it. And what people, and then the worst part is people don't realize the hardcover we make the least amount of money on.
Yeah.
Right. We want paperback and Audible. That's what we want to make.
I make all my books on paperback and Kindle, although I seldom ever read a Kindle. If I'm on an airplane and I'm forced to read something, I'll pull out my phone and read a Kindle. But it's usually paperback for me because hardback costs too much. And there's so much time involved in making an Audible book. And do people really want to hear my voice? No, just just read the book.
They would rather hear your voice. I'm telling you right now. When people go on walks, they do other stuff working out. They listen to Audible. I mean, and people want to hear it. And there's nothing worse than hearing somebody else reading for the author. It's like watching those shows on Netflix that they dub with English accent. I mean, they're so much better today than they were back when we were kids and watching those kung fu movies. I'm going to get him.
I
don't know.
Did you see what she said over there?
I'm going to side with Rob on this. I don't think I have a great voice for reading.
It doesn't matter. It's you. They want to hear who you are. It doesn't have to be a perfect voice. I mean, as long as you're not Godfrey, Gilbert Godfrey, you pretty much, people want to hear who you are.
I thought maybe I'd have Arnold do my voice.
No, because then you can't understand.
I'd like Kevin Hart to read my story. I think that would be pretty sharp.
Yeah. Well, luckily today you can put it down and you can use one of those AIs to read it for you in somebody else's voice. There you go.
Yeah, Mace Windu. or whoever plays Mace Windu, Samuel Jackson. Yeah, no,
Yeah. Because I think it's important to get your, like you said, your story. That's why we do Helping the Brave, just so people can talk about their transition, how what they did, what they're doing now, and if they have other issues, we want to talk about that, how to help veterans. But you need a platform, and you're right. It's someone said, do different recordings of certain things, and then take all that and turn it into a book. That works also. Like a lot of the stuff that you your conversations with collections people and those other, people trying to sell you stuff or whatever. So I just like, Jesus, you look at some of those, especially when put on Facebook. It's like, I can't believe it. You're like my wife, because when we did a refinance last year, I said, we're going to get a ton of phone calls. And then she would just lay into them, and you could tell she enjoyed it after a while.
Well, yeah. And when I first started dealing with the scammers, before I even wrote the first Rob versus the Scammers, and that was the first book in the series, I would yell at these guys. I would scream. I would slam the phone down. And I thought, all this is doing is raising my blood pressure. I'm gonna probably stroke out while I'm on the phone with these guys. And I thought, no, I'm not doing this. So I just thought, I'm gonna string them along and see how far I can take them on these conversations. And it just became funnier and funnier and funnier. And my wife's like, you got to write that down. She's back here laughing. And now 7 books later, I got 2 more coming out, one at the end of the year and one in 2024. So there'll be 9. And I probably have enough material so far for half of book 10. So, I mean, it doesn't get old.
Now, do you write as you're talking to them, or are you shorthanded, or
I write a lot of it down while I'm doing it. It's just gotten to the point where it's I know what they're gonna say.
He's got his script out. All right, here we go. I'm gonna say this. They said this. I'm gonna say that.
No, it's just and sometimes I'll be looking at something like I threw out Mace Windu. I throw in Star Wars quotes just to see if I can trip them up. And a lot of them don't get it. They don't, like, you don't know Star Wars?
No, they don't know. They don't get a lot of the movies. I do that stuff all the time. I do it at I'm a president of Rotary now, and on radio, I'll throw stuff out there, and then I'll get somebody who calls me and talks to me later, goes, I can't believe you said that. Because it's like only certain people will get it,
Yeah. Yeah. And, but one of the things that I think, you had mentioned transition, and I think there needs to be more training for soldiers from leaving, the service into the real world. And a lot of them stay in because there is no equivalent of their job outside.
Right. Well, and I also I think Ed and I noticed that the transition for junior enlisted and even junior officers, but specifically junior enlisted, is far less adequate than it is if you are a command sergeant major or a colonel. Like in Microsoft, they are targeted and valued and different things like that. Whereas junior, and they are younger people. They are people who are starting their careers, but they're not doing nearly the amount of background. But I also feel like the younger demographic have a harder time understanding their own need, like having self-realization that, it is like, I just think they come across a majority of the ones that we've had on that they haven't figured out.
Yeah.
And, I think even one gentleman, had such a great skill set as a nurse, and he told everybody he's doing the entrepreneurial thing, but he actually regretted not going to some of the other classes just to know what was out there and take for granted that he had it all together.
Right.
But it's only a couple of weeks. It's not like it's a long time. I mean, boot camp's 6 weeks? They need a 6 week out, or depending on where you go to boot camp, what year it was. But
Yeah,
I'm just
well,
saying, it just depends on, 8 weeks, whatever it is. They need something. They have a boot camp in. We need a boot camp out. And that was brought by, I have a guy coming next month to my Rotary to talk about what he does. And we had him on here, Ron Self. And he helps veterans he was a 10-year Marine, went to prison for 23 years, wrote a program on how to help vets so that they don't go through what he went through, and to help vets getting out of the prison system, never to return. He started the program in the prison, and he got out. Now he's running the program, and they haven't had a single vet go back in prison.
Yeah.
He's a really neat guy
Yeah.
to listen to. I enjoyed that interview a lot. But so I think it's interesting coming, having people from all across the US jump in and talk about their transition stories and different things. So it's not like, oh, the Army did it all wrong, but the Air Force has got it squared away, or the Marines are in this. It is very similar stories across the board and very unique for somebody to go, I had the best transition ever. In fact, I think Dick Murray, who transitioned 150 years ago, was the only one that was like, I had it down.
And a lot of our soldiers and service members are coming out of the service in debt, and I don't know. I think there needs to be a system somewhere that teaches them finances, it teaches them savings, it teaches them all this stuff that they need to have, because then they come into the real world and they're not getting the jobs that they need, and they're still in debt. Then they're on the streets, and so many homeless vets. I can't take it.
I think hard thing is there's a lot of classes out there that do teach that in the service, but people don't want to go to it because of what it looks like to their neighbor, to their commands, to their spouse, that they don't have it all under control. And I also think people don't realize the red flags. Like if, they have more credit cards than family members, if they have, like some of the things that are running the risk that you're making bad decisions before they're huge problems. I don't think people have any idea those are red flags.
Right.
Yeah, but they're also preyed on.
Yeah.
The moment they get in, the people are at them to, get a car, get your furniture on, pay on time. Won't worry, we'll attach your wages. Don't worry, we'll do this, we'll do that. They do everything they possibly can to get, because they know they're stuck. They'll get paid, they'll get their money. And that's, but you're right. They need that. We taught Blake that before he went in, and it was his sergeant was shocked when he got up to his first duty station in Alaska, because he told him he's going to go get his vehicle. And he's like, oh, is your parents co-signing for you or giving you money for down payment? He's like, no, I have a 740 FICO score. they he learned. I mean, we have a few kids. Not every single one of them listened to us, but he did. And you can bring them to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah, it's. I mean, my son's had several cars. He's been in Europe. He's been back in the States. He's gotten cars back, but he's always done it the right way, the proper way, and he's never overextended himself. But there are just a lot of soldiers, and I think the key sometimes is getting married, having kids, because maybe that helps you focus a little bit better. But there's a lot of single soldiers or service members that don't have that foundation, and they're in debt. They're being preyed on, it just then they come out and they end up in jail. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah,
I'm sure
they tie those things to their identity. Like, this is the only way to show that I'm a successful person or I'm worthy, is because of
and that's not just service members. That's pretty much 90% of the people out there when they first get going.
Yeah, and as I was talking to Amy before we got on air is my big thing is I understand that service members don't always get paid the best, but they should be paid above a level that they don't need to have WIC or work or assistance programs. We should treat them better.
And a lot of it, I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, my son, I'm shocked how fast he made rank within 4 years. I couldn't even get to that rank in the 6 years I was gonna be in, just because of the Army. It just seems like they go up through ranks so much faster and they make more money now. The Navy, you're stuck at a rank for so long because it's all about who's getting out. Well, there's people who don't ever get out of that because of where they different countries and different things, and that's just the way it is. But so I'm gonna, you're right. They need to make, but the positive thing is if they buy a house or when they're married and they get money to live off base that are tax free, which is a lot of money. I was surprised how much it is. If you add the tax value to it, it's on average, it's like $3,000 a month just to pay for your living off base or, that kind of stuff. Well, you don't get when you're single. So it's the single guys who get into trouble because they don't get that extra money to get a place.
And I think that there should be some types of programs out there to help them. But there again, it's government. You can only trust them so far, if at all.
Can't trust them at all.
No.
So, Amy thinks she can, but not the rest of us.
Amy trusts everyone.
No, you got to verify.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trust but verify.
I try my best to help, where I can, who I can. So if I see homeless vets out there, I'm going to help them. But they also have to want the help. There's a lot of them that their pride or their ego or whatever they want to call it. Oh, I can't take any help. Dude, you need help. No.
Yeah, I always tell them, well, if you're under fire, you would call for air support. So what's the difference? That's all you're doing is you're calling for air support. So stop it. Stop being stutter.
Well, and some of them redeploy, multiple times to these combat zones because it's easier to cope with that than it is real people in real life.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
yeah.
I just think that there should be added programs, but who am I? I don't know.
You're
how to
one person.
Them. One person.
That's all it takes. One person.
I know. Let's do it. All three of it.
Well, no, we need to put something together. Amy, didn't you have something? Isn't there something at the joint base up there for helping people with their budgeting and that kind of stuff?
So there is for active duty, but then also I think there's budgeting classes. A lot of people don't realize most financial institutions, if you went in,
no one's going to do that.
Credit union, and
no one's going to do that. I'm just telling you right now, no one's going to do that. The best way to do it is to create something online that people can go through, watch the videos, watch the classes, take the classes themselves, and not actually have to tell anybody that they're doing what they're doing. That's how you get to them. People don't want to be embarrassed.
And sadly, though, is that, as I said, the service members are going in debt while in service. As they get out of service, now they're getting collection calls and this and that and harassed and their credit is shot. And that's a lousy way to transition into the real world. And so I think there needs to be credit counseling. I think there needs to be these programs that help them not just transition their duty outside to get a real job, but also clean up their credit, clean up everything. Yeah.
Because there shouldn't be, they know exactly what they're going to make every month. They know how long they're going to be unless. So people get into trouble because maybe medical or whatever, that's something different. But the regular people should be, because I know a lot of loan officers these days are wishing that we didn't have these rates. So, there's stuff that happens to people that they don't plan for, but you can plan better. And there's programs out there. And if there's not, Amy, it's one that's online or anything, we need to put. Okay.
There is, and there's so it's right on the top of my head. There's a community program which you can do.
I can't read it. What does it say?
But you can on around JBLM, and maybe when we put it on the Facebook, I'll try to tag the group that does it.
Yeah. Well, I like to, and it'd be great to find out what it is, get that out there so we can promote it more, so people know about it.
Yeah. And then
Rob, go ahead, Amy.
I was going to say, and then there's a lot of groups that do great things. I have a friend who owns a collision center, and he just gave away a car. He actually gave away my daughter's car to a family in need, and he does it every single year. And he used Sage's car because it was stolen on New Year's Eve this last year. And we found out that we didn't have the right insurance coverage, so nothing was covered, but it had a brand new engine and new tires and stuff. So I had talked to him. I said, you want us to donate the car to you? You could fix it up and use it because the bones of the car is really good. And he's like, sold. So Sage donated her car to him. He fixed it up and it went to a family, which is really cool.
But that still doesn't help us about budgeting and the other side.
No, but it's just saying good. Yeah. It's a good news story that I got to share.
Somebody won the lottery last week too.
Ed.
Yeah, somebody won the lottery last week too. That's a great story.
California, right? It was like $1 billion.
Yeah, I don't know where they're. The sad thing about California is you have to let people know who you are.
Yeah.
You can't hide it. But before you let anybody know, you got to get all the 5 people in place, your attorneys, your trust, all these other things. So you can have it put away and nobody can, I'm sorry, I don't have it anymore.
That's the fastest way to find out who your relatives are is win the lottery.
Well, actually, one of the things first thing they say is when you win, shut off all your social media, delete every one of your accounts.
Yep. Change your name, everything.
Just delete all your accounts. It's really hard to find you if you have all your accounts deleted. All right, Rob, thank you for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it. All right, so if somebody wants to write a book, did you put together like a course on how to write books yet?
I don't have a course, but I'd be happy to sit down with them and show them the nuts and bolts. I mean, it's for me, I have it down to a science. I can tell you exactly how to do things. If you're a service member, let's do it. 20-minute phone call, and I can at least guide you in the right direction.
What's the best way to reach you?
I can go to my website, anspachmedia.com, and you can find me through the socials right through the website, and you can even listen to my podcast, which is over there as well.
I was on it once.
You were on it once. Yeah, let's get you back.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Amy, anything you want to say before we go?
No, thank you for coming in, though.
Yeah, and we'll take down the service that you were in. I'm just kidding. You're not
I wasn't, but I wanted to be.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Yeah. Darn color blindness.
I know. But
if you go back, you wouldn't be where you are today if you were in the service.
I can see colors just fine. I just couldn't see the numbers in the dots, and apparently you need that when you're dealing with wires and nuclear stuff.
Was it red and greens or blues?
Yeah, reds and greens. I have problems with.
That's exactly what my son was, and they're like, okay, well, you can go medical, and then he's like, I want to be the ranger and all that. And they're like, sorry, you can't. Yeah. And my wife's like, yes, you can be an airborne, but you can't go the further out than that. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do airborne. I'm very comfortable on land or even on a ship, but no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I don't understand jumping out of perfectly good airplanes.
No.
He does. He doesn't do it anymore. He actually gave that up because he's like, because a couple of jumps ago, he hit a tree on the way. The wind blew him into trees. Not just him, everybody. I mean, everybody. And they had helmets and they hit him pretty hard. So he's like, I don't want to jump anymore.
Yeah, I hate when trees jump out in front of you.
Yeah, I know. Especially while you're driving. They just jump right in front of you. All right. Make it a great day. Thanks for watching. If you like what we do here, the best way you can help is subscribe, share, and especially go to our YouTube channel, Helping the Brave, and subscribe. And Rob, thank you so much for being here. Amy, thank you as always for everything you do for us, and make it a great day. Say goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.